After a long hiatus, we returned back to this nonsense. So how's it going, everyone? It's been a while since I last did this. Don't think I forgot about this. Oh no, this was in the back of my head the whole time. Hope you guys enjoyed Pokemon Legends ZA. But now that that game has come and gone, until the DLC, we return back to doing this. So I think for today I should finish talking about Daryl Dixon Season 3. And then next time we'll discuss the other shows I have yet to talk about. Since it's been so long since the last time I did this, a lot of things have happened that I didn't get a chance to go over. So, I'll go over them near the end. First, we have the final 3 episodes of Daryl Dixon Season 3 to go over. Keep in mind, these episodes happened weeks ago. You know, after all this time, Giratina still isn't shiny. How insane is that? Okay, let's just get started. Let's not drag this out anymore, let's just get started. So we have the final 3 episodes of Daryl Dixon Season 3 to go over, so that'd be episodes 5, 6, and 7. Remember, Season 3 had 7 episodes, as opposed to Season 1 and 2 only having 6 each. So episode 5 opens up with Roberto hanging. Remember, at the end of the last episode, Roberto actually found Justina. And then, this episode, Roberto is seen hanging over a bridge, tied up by some rope. A bunch of walkers are trying to grab him by the feet. The 2 guys at the top, they're having a bet. How many hacks do you think it'll take to cut the rope and drop him? Well, they both get shot swiftly. And then our characters, Daryl, Carol, and Antonio, come up and are able to kill all the walkers and save Roberto. Oh, hold on, let me just double check one thing. Okay. Audio is being picked up. Good. Antonio reveals that he did find Justina, but they were separated once again. They were driving down the road. Roberto had got back Justina, but then they were rammed off the road, and then they took Justina back. But now, our characters know that Fede lied about Justina volunteering. So Daryl questions where is that convoy gonna head to now? Antonio tells him probably to Barcelona, so Daryl goes to Barcelona to try to save Justina. He wants Carol to stay behind and go back to Solaz because they need a liar back there. They need someone to be back there to lie their way through everything. To throw Fede off. So Daryl separates from them. Daryl heads to Barcelona himself while Carol goes back with Antonio and Roberto to Solaz. So back at Solaz, Roberto gets healed up by, well, by the way they put it, a couple of witches. Them brewing up a potion to heal him and then them chanting stuff. Fede does question what happened to Roberto. And he also asks, where's Daryl? And Carol, well, that's why she's there. She lies to Fede. Carol says that Daryl is at the boat, fixing up the boat. He'll probably spend the night there. So, having thrown Fede off their tracks, Paz comes up, and then she asks, where's Daryl really? Antonio says they can trust Paz, so they tell her. Daryl went to Barcelona to try to free Justina. And well, you see Paz gets some sort of idea in her head. So we see Daryl driving his motorcycle in the desert on his way to Barcelona. And as he's driving there, he encounters a woman with her eyes gouged out. Her eyes were cut out. And she was asking for water. So Daryl gets off his bike and offers her some water. Me personally, I would have just left her. In the middle of a desert, water being scarce, I'm saving all the water I can get. She has her eyes cut out. She isn't surviving much longer. I'm sorry, but me personally, I would have just left her. The woman also mentions the vultures up top. And then Daryl leaves. After Daryl leaves, he sees a train, a literal train on tracks being pulled by walkers. That is a feat on its own, let me tell you. I wonder how they managed to chain up and tie up all those walkers in a way where it can pull the train. The train is being lured by a guy on horseback playing his guitar and singing. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty creative way to use walkers, albeit dangerous still. So, the person inside the train, I don't think we ever got his name, but whatever. He was getting head by his woman in the bathtub. We also meet his pet, I think it was an iguana, Lola. Well, the guys inside, they spot Daryl, and, well, they want his bike. So some of the guys, they get onto their own bikes and chase after Daryl. So there's kind of like a duel between Daryl and the main guy, the main bandit guy. Daryl shoots his gas and his arm, but Daryl has to ditch his own bike. So he gets away from them for now. Daryl is now stranded in the desert. He walks by some bones and skeletons, and he then looks up and sees vultures. He also sees a vulture attack a walker in the distance. Well, Daryl has been in the desert all day. It's now nearing nighttime. And once again, Daryl reflects onto his past. You know, we've seen him reflect flashbacks to his past throughout the season. We still don't know what that's all about yet. Daryl does encounter some people, though. And then those people lead them to their camp for water. So Daryl encounters this camp of, not gonna lie, some pretty grotesque looking people. The episode Insider at the end of the episode... Wait, hold on, before that. At first I thought these people... There was a line later on that kind of made me think that they were maybe burned by the bandits to, you know, be obedient and stay silent. But then the episode Insider at the end reveals that they are suffering through something. I'm not sure what it is. So at the camp, Daryl is dehydrated. He asks for water and just asks for more water. But then, you know, they only have so much, so they can't spare too much water for him. Oh yeah, the dude he meets is named Mateo. And then Daryl also meets this other lady who is basically the group's translator. I don't remember what her name is. She reveals to Daryl that their water was stolen by bandits, the people on the train. So they offer Daryl their truck for transportation if he can help them. Daryl's just like, why would you do that? So the lady just straight up says, 4 to 5 days, no water, no life. Daryl agrees to help them, but needs their help to prepare, because Daryl can't fight them all himself. While they prepare for the battle, one of the guys asks Daryl what he thinks about these people, this group, this community. I like this callback. Daryl says the French have a word for it. To Baison. I like that. I like that he calls back to that. While working, a little girl offers Daryl some water, which was a nice moment. So, now it's time for Daryl to begin the battle. It almost seems like... Okay, so Daryl gets into the truck and leaves. Daryl pulling out a map. It almost appears like he was going to leave them. But instead, their plan was for Daryl to get out there enough to lead the bandits back into their traps. So, yeah, one by one, each bandit gets killed. Daryl once again duels with that main bandit biker guy who screams a lot for some reason. And of course Daryl wins. Daryl kills him swiftly. So the bandits are all dead. Now it's time to deal with the people inside the train. So inside the train, we see that this leader guy feeds his eyeballs to his iguana Lola. So that kind of explains why that lady earlier had her eyes cut out. So Daryl sneaks on top of the train by jumping down from one of the bridges, and then takes them out one by one. He also separates the train cars. And, you know, the walkers are now loose. They eat the guy on the horseback. Poor guy, he was just singing, he was just chilling, and then he gets devoured by walkers. At least the horse got away. You know, Walking Dead has a habit of killing horses on their shows. At least the horse got away. So, the train has stopped. Daryl literally jumps in through the window. And walkers come in as well. The woman inside the train car flees for her life, and we never follow up with her again. We don't know what happened to her. So while Daryl and that guy inside the train fight, well, first they need to work together to fight off walkers. And then when they're in the clear, they actually take this moment of a breather. The both of them silently agree, okay, let's take a small break first. And then they get back to fighting. Daryl drowns the guy in his own bathtub, and then he finishes him off by shooting him in the head. And, well, Daryl took care of all the bad guys, and Daryl got these people their water back. So now that these people have their water back, they can live again. Daryl is now free to head off to Barcelona. As a parting gift, the little girl from earlier doesn't just give him water, she gives him her water bottle, which is nice. A little kid's, like, cartoonish water bottle. That was nice. I really thought that would be the whole episode, just all Daryl. But no, we go back to Carol a little bit. But first, we see Daryl riding off on the train tracks on his motorcycle. And we see, hey, the iguana's alive. Lola the iguana is alive. There is that at least. If this was classic Daryl Dixon, Daryl absolutely would have stopped his bike, gotten off, killed the iguana, and kept it for food. If anything, that may have been smarter for Daryl to do. Well, that's pretty much Daryl's storyline. A burp didn't want to come out. So, over on the Carol side, Valentina goes over to visit Roberto. Carol talks to Valentina, and hilariously enough, Carol calls her a horny old lady, because she... damn is she. That pretty much sums up Valentina. A horny old lady, yep. Sorry, I had to lock the door for my sister. So, yeah, now that Roberto's back at Solaz, Fede's mom finds Justina's compass. Her necklace that Roberto gave her. That's not good. That tells Fede's mom that Roberto did find Justina. So Carol offers Antonio to come with them to America, but Antonio, he's not really feeling it. Yeah, so Fede's mom tells him about the compass. And then Fede gets a little bit suspicious, as if he wasn't already. So he asks Sergio to check on Daryl at the beach. You know, supposedly Daryl's at the beach fixing up the boat, and he's going to spend the night there. And well, that's pretty much episode 5. This, for the most part, was a filler episode, but you know what? I enjoyed it. We're sorely missing filler episodes like this, where not too much happens to further the plot. You know, these days I've been rewatching a lot of old Walking Dead episodes, seasons 3, 4, 5. I've just been rewatching some old episodes. Damn, they were good. Compared to what we have now, they were amazing. Sure, there was a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking, but a lot of it was enjoyable to hear. Sure, and sure, some of the dialogue may have lasted a little too long, but I still enjoyed it. So, that was episode 5. Episode 6 opens with Daryl meeting Paz on his way to Barcelona. Why is Paz there? Paz claims that Daryl might need a tour guide to Barcelona. So the two of them team up and they head to Barcelona together. They arrive at an abandoned amusement park, and Paz suggests that they get help from friends. Friends that Paz has in the city of Barcelona. Supposedly near the beginning of the outbreak, Paz got out with a friend of hers. They were at Barcelona, but then her friend met a man, fell in love, and stayed back. It's also kind of interesting to see that walkers were on the Ferris wheel itself. It's like, damn, how'd that happen? You know? How did people die on the Ferris wheel? I can see maybe they thought it was safe up there, like the ground was so dangerous, so flooded with walkers, they had to stay up there. But like, to death? They stayed up there and I assume starved to death? Like, I assume that's the only way. No one put those walkers up there, right? So we also cut to a flashback to Roberto, a young Roberto, and his mother at that same spot where Antonio was filming them. It's not necessarily a flashback because Antonio was watching the tape, the old tape with Carol next to Roberto in bed recovering. Well, Fede comes in and he sees what's on the TV, the tape. Some tensions being built up. Sergio calls Fede to tell him that they found the dead soldiers, the dead El Alcazar soldiers. They're in the pits. Well, now Fede is absolutely suspicious. So while Carol is going out to grab some tools, she sees that Antonio's cat is eating out of the bowl. I thought that was just a small detail, but it actually comes in later. Carol turns around and sees Antonio showering. The episode insider actually revealed that water was cold. Pretty funny. So, Carol and Valentina on the beach, talking. Valentina gives Carol a book, a translation book of simple phrases. Carol's just like, I don't need this, I'm about to leave. Maybe that's exactly why you need it. A couple of phrases. Well, Fede talks with his mom. Pretty much. And then he opens a drawer and looks at a picture. It's a picture of Roberto's mother. So that's why there was such big beef between Fede and Antonio. It was a love triangle. Fede also had feelings for Maria. That was her name. I almost forgot that. Roberto's mother's name was Maria. Fede also had feelings for Maria, but she chose Antonio instead. It's like, oof. Oof, that hurts. I know that feeling, Fede. I know what it feels like to have feelings for a woman who has feelings for someone else. Believe me. So no wonder Fede has such a grudge against Antonio. And it's revealed why later on too. Like, exactly why too. So Daryl and Paz, they go to where they think Paz's friends are, but then they get swarmed by walkers. They actually get rescued by, surprise, surprise, Paz's friends. So they meet Paz's friend Laia. One of her people even points a crossbow at Daryl's face, and he's just like, nice crossbow. That does bring up the question, where is Daryl's crossbow? I assume it's on the boat. Carol brought Daryl's crossbow to him in France, and then they made it to London. They sailed to Spain. I assume the crossbow is in the boat, unless it was lost during the storm. So Carol and Antonio, they return. They flirt a little bit, but then they see Roberto. He's worse. He was recovering just fine, but now he's worse. He has a fever. He's way sicker now. So they need to go and ask Fede for medicine. Fede refuses to spare any aspirin for Roberto, to the point where Carol has to threaten him. And then Fede's like, I think it's time for you to go. Carol's just like, oh, we won't be here for long. We won't be here for much longer. Yep. So, Daryl and Paz, they meet everyone there. They meet Laia's husband, her friend's husband. They eat. They also hear just how bad El Alcazar is. The women that they bring there, they beat, they put to work. It's horrible. Daryl wants them to fight because one of their friends got taken there, Justina. But Laia's just like, we are a camp of refugees. We're not equipped to fight. We only have what we have to defend ourselves, not to actually put on a full front assault and fight. But Daryl mentions that Guillermo's gonna be there. They could kill the next king of Spain. Stop the La Ofrenda for good. And well, that's enough inspiration to get them to start fighting. So they scout, that's the word. They scout the area to see how it is before they attack. They attack the next day, but before that, during nighttime, Daryl, he has dreams of, well, flashing back once again, and this time, he also sees a young Merle, his older brother. We see a younger version of his older brother Merle. Man, I feel worse and worse for Daryl. Merle died so long ago, too. In this episode, Daryl even said, 13, 14 years has passed. Merle died about a year and a half into the apocalypse, I think. Anywhere from there to 2 years. So, Merle has been dead for like a decade now. Daryl, woken up by his bad dreams, he goes over and talks to Paz, who is also awake. Paz reveals her story with Elena, how they met in high school, and then Elena was chosen in the very first the very first La Ofrendo, and it was only meant to be one. It was just meant to be one, but then they just kept on doing it. Paz reveals that she tried to save her, tried to follow them, the convoys, and tried to save her. But clearly it never worked. Paz asks why Daryl is here. Why is he fighting? And the reason Paz came to the conclusion of was right on the dot. Daryl lost someone himself. Daryl being very closed off. He's just like, I've lost a lot of people. And Paz, once again, hits a bullseye. Not every loss is the same. You have to think about just how many people Daryl has lost. You know? All the people. Herschel, Beth, Glenn, Rick. Rick is alive, but to Daryl, he's been dead for years. Obviously, the most recent one, Isabel. So, Carol, now that it's nighttime, Carol goes out and she sees the cat is dead. And that makes her realize that Roberto has been poisoned. He was fine before and now he's super sick again. It's because he's being poisoned. The cat from earlier was eating out of the bowl. The same bowl used to treat Roberto. So Carol tries to sneak in and steal some medicine for Roberto, but then she gets caught by Fede's mom. She tries to explain that Fede lied about everything. He gave up Justina to the La Ofrendo. But, it's a pretty scary moment when the person you're trying to tell the truth to speaks a different language and barely understands you. Carol is able to convince Fede's mom that Fede has been lying this whole time. So, she gives Carol medicine to give to Roberto. Now that Roberto feels better, they're no longer safe there. They need to escape. They need to leave. So, and Roberto is still weak. He's still recovering, so they need to sneak Roberto out. Carol offers all of them to go with them to America, but Antonio, he just can't. And he shows Carol why. So Antonio shows her a documentary film that he was working on with his wife, Maria. They were filming at a protest happening, some sort of some sort of government thing, I'm not too sure. And during the protest, Antonio made his wife Maria get nice and close to try to get a scoop. And I guess maybe the car was rigged. So up close, the car explodes, killing Antonio's wife Maria, killing Roberto's mother. Roberto blames himself for the death of not only his wife, but his son's mother. And that's also why Fede has such a grudge against Antonio. Antonio, the woman that Fede loved, was killed. Somewhat quote-unquote killed. Because of Antonio. So Fede hung it over him all this time. Roberto wakes up and he sees the truth play out before him. He sees the truth on how his mother died. And it was after the explosion, the camera just showed like a tilted perspective on the floor, filming Antonio just, with his dead wife in his hands. It was a pretty comical camera angle. A pretty cliche pretty cliche camera angle. Like, it just perfectly exploded to where the camera was pointing right at them. Of all places that camera could have ended up in the explosion, it ended up filming his reaction, his grief to his dead wife. That camera survived? I don't know, it was pretty comical. And the fact that he kept that part of the tape. Anyway, so back on the Darrow side, Guillermo and Elena, well, they're driving to where El Alcazar is, being led by two guys on horses. And we see Justina is locked in the back with some other girl that we don't know who she is. And it turns out that the guards have already been infiltrated by our characters. It's like, damn, that would have been nice to see. Feels like they just ran out of runtime, so they just had to skip right along. So, of course, a fight breaks out. Bullets being fired everywhere. Darrow tries to free Justina, but there's a lock on it, of course, and he just can't break the lock. In the fight, Laia finds a rocket launcher inside one of the cars, because of course she does, somehow, coincidentally. She tries to fire it at the car that has Guillermo in it, but Paz stops her to save Elena, who's inside. Laia fires the rocket, misses, and hits one of the walls, and so a bunch of walkers are freed. Laia gets shot by Guillermo, and then she gets eaten. Her poor husband. It turns out that they lost their child 2 years earlier, and now the guy just lost his wife. During the fight, Elena sees Paz, and then Guillermo sees how Elena looks at Paz. Darrow tries his best to free Justina, but he has no choice but to leave them behind because there's just too many walkers. And if it wasn't for Paz being there... What? If it wasn't for Paz being there, Darrow would not have let go of Justina. So Caro tries to sneak out Roberto in the back of their car, being covered up by some sheets. Before she leaves, Antonio finally kisses Carol as a thank you for helping my son. I gotta say, I do like the setup between these two characters. Setting up their romance in, 5 episodes? It actually feels pretty natural. I mean, for God's sake, it took 2 seasons to set up the romance between Daryl and Isabel, only for them to rip it away from us. So, the car gets searched, and Antonio causes a distraction by calling out Fede publicly, letting them escape. So Carol is able to escape with Roberto, but Antonio's left behind. Antonio was going to sneak out later on at night himself, and they were all going to meet up at the lighthouse. Daryl and Paz, now that their assassination attempt of Guillermo and rescue attempt for Elena and Justina has failed, well, they part ways with the refugee camp, the refugee group, and then the two of them, they come up with another way to try to fight El Alcazar themselves. The ending scene for this episode was pretty great, despite it being, not enough. So we flash back to the beginning. We flash back to that moment right after the explosion happened that killed Maria. Antonio is in the back of an ambulance being treated. He asks the guy there, the paramedic, to just try one more time to save his wife. But the guy, he just can't. He can't. She's gone, and there's others who need his help. The dude was Asian, by the way, which was really unexpected, but alright. So Antonio, he grieves over his love, but then he hears screaming happen. He turns around, and then he sees a walker rise up from one of the very reflective gold tinfoil body bags. The beginning of the outbreak has started. And then his wife Maria reanimates and is also a walker. You see the brief moment of joy when Antonio realizes that, hey, his wife really isn't gone yet. But then she opens her eyes, she growls at him, and Antonio realizes that something is wrong. But then it cuts. We don't get to see anything else. We don't get to see Antonio deal with the beginning of the outbreak. We don't get to see how he dealt with Maria as a walker. We don't get to see any of that. We just got the teensiest of glimpses to the beginning of the outbreak in Spain. I don't know, I feel like it's a pretty big coincidence that the outbreak happened right at that moment. But then again, it was a pretty big coincidence also that the apocalypse happened when Rick was in the hospital, right? So that was episode 6. If this was any other season, the season would be over by now. But nope, we have one last episode. So episode 7, the season 3 finale, we first open up with some hooded figure walking towards the St. James statue. He walks up, sees the Rubik's Cube that Daryl left, picks it up, and then it's revealed who this person is. It's Codron! He's alive! Codron is alive. He made it out of that tunnel, and he somehow made it to Spain. Codron is alive, and he is returning. I really thought they were going to silently write him off of the show, like they did for Heath or Virgil. Codron is alive, and he returned. You know, at first I wondered, how the hell did he even get from London, or at this point, France, to Spain? Like, even Daryl and Carol had to travel across the ocean. So I looked it up. It turns out you are able to walk from France to Spain. I'm sorry, geography's not my strong suit, okay? I'm sure a lot of people were like, no shit, you can walk between the two. I'm actually pretty excited for Codron to return. I can't wait to see him reunite with Daryl and Carol in season 4, the final season. And you know what? I'm kind of wondering. Is Codron angry at the two of them for leaving him behind for dead? Or does he understand? You know, Codron was hallucinating his brother, Michel. And he ran off after him after trying to kill Daryl. I wonder if he's mad at Daryl and Carol for leaving him behind. Because, in a way, they had no choice. The tunnel was filled with walkers. They were hallucinating out of their minds. They had to get out. And to them, Codron just lost his mind and ran off somewhere. They couldn't go after him, or they could die themselves. Hey, what up? Back to doing this nonsense. So, Codron somehow made it out of the tunnel. He realized he was alone, and he just traveled. Just kept on moving forward. And then just wandered all the way to Spain. I wonder if he's mad at the two of them for leaving him behind. Or will they understand? What? Will he understand that they had no choice? They could have died in that tunnel. And Condrone just ran off. I'm very curious if Condrone is going to be mad at the two of them. You know how much of a W it is to have Condrone back? This dude's a badass. This dude is tough as nails. So having him on the team? Yo. Daryl and Carol are building up a pretty good team on their hands. So, now that Condrone is back, he hasn't reunited with our characters just yet. I wonder how he was able to survive that whole time. And it is a pretty big coincidence that he walked somewhere randomly and just happened to end up where Daryl and Carol has been. So, Carol and Roberto has now made it to the lighthouse, but Carol wants to go back for Antonio. Because, you know, to Carol, Antonio called Fayday out in public. And that's going to hurt his ego. He's not going to let that slide. And you know what? She's right. Back at Solaz, Antonio is actually torturing and beating... Wait, what? Fayday is getting beaten and tortured back at Solaz for information on where Daryl is. But he refuses to answer. Speaking of Daryl and Carol... What? Daryl and Paz... They find people asking for volunteers to work for El Alcazar. Pretty convenient, but alright. So then we see brief flashbacks, not of Daryl, but of Paz. We see Paz flash back to being beaten, trying to save Elena with an ugly haircut. Over at El Alcazar, Justina is getting a makeover. We see Guillermo be mad at Elena for having some, you know, getting some F-me eyes, as Peacemaker would say it. Over at Paz. Guillermo is horrible. This man sucks. Yeah, Guillermo is super mad at Elena for not being happy with him. I'm close to completing my Alola Dex. Then I'll breed shiny Pokemon. Nice! What are you breeding for shiny? Me personally, I remember breeding for a shiny Minior because I wasn't about to risk it self-destructing. I bred for a purple one. Then I'll shiny hunt legendary Pokemon. The starter Pokemon? Nice. That's still another hunt I want to do. I want to hunt here, not by eggs, but by reset. For a shiny Rowlet. One day, though. One day. Justina, she asks Elena for help to get out of there. But she basically gets told to just accept it. And she also sees what happens to those not chosen. Because Justina... over the balcony, she's able to see two women cleaning the floors, and then they get yelled at, they get beaten by the soldiers. So that's what happens when the women chosen by La Ofrenda doesn't get chosen here. They get put to work, and it's horrible. So Justina, for her own sake, better hope she gets chosen. Carol sneaks back into Solaz in the back of the truck, being driven by two of Valentina's men. Whatever the hell their name was. So she sneaks back into Solaz. You're breeding in Gen 2 also? Nice. What are you breeding for? Are you doing the thing where you get a shiny Ditto, was it? Like you trade the shiny Gyarados to Gen 1, it glitches into a shiny Ditto, and then, you know, 1 in 64 odds for an egg, despite an egg taking like 10 minutes to hatch. So, as workers, Daryl and Paz have to wear face masks, as if it was Squid Game. That way, the guests don't see the workers' faces. Yep, it's very much like Squid Game. Fade's mom warns him about rumors about him that he gave up Justina. And what Fade does to win back the trust of the people is he publicly hangs Antonio to rebuild faith in him. Not hanging by the neck, hanging him with rocks tied to his feet. Like he did in episode 1. And he also uses the dead El Alcazar soldiers as proof. Caro sees all this too. Oh my god, you put a bunch of stats. Hold on, let's see these stats of yours. Cyndaquil, 53 eggs. Totodile, 2 eggs, nice. Chikorita, 12 eggs, nice. Sudowoodo, 11 eggs, very nice. Dratini, 13 eggs, nice. Poliwag, 57 eggs, nice, nice. Mareep, 15 eggs. Horsey, 47 eggs. Vulpix, 44 eggs. Pretty well-balanced, number of eggs here. All in all, not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, I want a Shiny Hunt Gen 2 one day, but I got a lot of other things to do first. So, during the fancy dinner scene, they have walkers as puppets on stage, dressed up, being puppeteered by people on top. It's like, seriously? How stupid is that? You know very well at some point those walkers are gonna get loose and kill someone. You gotta get yourself a shiny legendary in Gen 2? Patience, my friend. I hunted Celebi like 4 or 5 times. Same goes with Suicune. I have yet to do like, shiny Lugia or Ho in Gen 2. One day, though. So during the dinner, we see the current king and queen of Spain. And if Guillermo is going to be the next king of Spain, does that mean he's their son? He looks nothing like the two. Oh, from Alola Games? Oh. Well, good luck to you on that. So yeah, it's like, is Guillermo their son? Because he looks nothing like them. And also, according to who are these guys the king and queen of Spain? Unless these guys really were royalty back in the day before the outbreak and they survived this whole time. Unless that's the case, then according to who are these guys the king and queen, right? Good thing I got 5 Master Balls from Gen 2. Alright. So, we now see their despicable ceremony. So, the women are choosing women, the ceremony. The men pick the flowers associated with their dresses. So, one woman gets chosen. Justina actually pulled a pretty smart move here. She let her hair down to kind of seduce the guy to pick her. Very smart, Justina. If there's one thing that gets the guy riled up, it's the simple act of a girl letting down her tied up hair. I don't know what it is, but something about that is just, But I can't believe she even needed to do that, because no offense to the other actresses, in my opinion, Justina was the best looking one out of all of them. That's me. That's my opinion. In my opinion, Justina was the prettiest one out of them all. The fact that she even needed to let down her hair at all. Anyway, so Justina gets chosen by this guy who we don't even learn the name of. So she gets brought to his table and, smart girl, she takes one of the knives on the table. She pockets it just in case of anything. So before anything happens there, Carol frees Antonio, but then they get spotted, they get shot at, but then later on, we see that they just stop. People shooting at them, they just stop shooting at them. And they just let them be. What? Alright. You duplicated the Master Ball? You want a shiny Ultra Beast from Alola? Which one are you gonna go for? So, they need a distraction. Daryl and Paz, they need a distraction. Daryl's plan was to climb up backstage and free the tied-up walkers. Pretty smart. Pretty stupid of them to have walkers tied up at the dinner table, but whatever. So the walkers get freed, and the king and queen get bitten, get eaten, get killed immediately. Damn, how'd these guys survive for like 15 years into the apocalypse if they immediately get killed off? And they stupidly actually agreed to have walkers tied up as entertainment. During the panic, they split up. Daryl goes for Justina, Paz goes for Elena. Also, Daryl, he throws a lantern, sets the place on fire. Fede hears of Carol saving Antonio, so he orders the walkers to be released. You know, the walkers that they have. You're gonna go for Buzzwole. Excellent choice. Paz finds Elena, and it's revealed that she has a son. She had a son with Guillermo. Ugh. Getting in bed with that guy. Ugh. No offense to the actor, but the character is like, ugh. So, Paz is actually thrilled. She's happy for Justina. What? Not Justina. Paz is happy for Elena that she has a son. Well, clearly their plan was to get out together. So in a way, that's now her son as well. Growing up in the apocalypse with two moms, huh? Well, that's a first. But Paz, she gets ambushed by Guillermo. Guillermo almost kills her. You know, that flashback where Paz had that ugly haircut, it was also Guillermo there too. Guillermo was about to kill her back then, but he spares her. Now Guillermo's just like, I remember you. You want my wife? Well, you can be with her. Because I'm gonna... What'd he say? He was gonna kill them both anyways now? So as Guillermo was about to kill Paz, Elena literally stabs him in the back, clean through with the sword, like Michonne did to the governor. Well, as a final liner, Paz says, I remember you too, and swiftly ends him. Good. Disgusting man. But once again, you know, killing off the villains too soon. I don't know, I don't really feel as bad about this villain being killed off, as opposed to, like, say, Madame Genet. So, Guillermo's now dead. Daryl, well, actually, before that, Justina tries to reason with the guy, but then she tries to, she pulls out the butter knife and tries to threaten him, so then this spoiled guy, Sebastian style, I'm joking, he attacks Justina, but then Daryl comes in and swiftly kills the guy, saving Justina. Before they go, they also have to save all of the other women who were taken to El Alcazar. They leave the burning El Alcazar, fighting off some burning walkers as well. And then we cut to them parting ways. Paz is going to bring them all to the refugee camp, and she decides to stay there. Stay there with Elena and her son. I forget what her son's name is, doesn't matter. So Daryl and Paz, they part ways. I don't know if we're going to see Paz again. I don't know if we're going to see her in Season 4. She could, this could be it for her. She could be a Season 3 one-and-done character. So they split off. Daryl, before getting on the bike, Daryl tells Justina that they're getting on the boat with them. So I guess Roberto did not tell Justina that he plans for the two of them to go to America. So Daryl and Justina leave. They stop for a little bit for Daryl to refuel his bike. And Daryl flashes back. And this time we hear an adult Merle's voice. I don't know if Michael Rooker came back to just do 3 lines, or they just had someone who sounded really similar to him. But this time we hear adult Merle's voice. So, whilst they stop, Daryl and Justina talk for a bit. Justina, understandably, asks Daryl, why did you risk so much for me and Roberto? Daryl's just like, this world, a lot of things are lost. Maybe you and Roberto can have something, you know? Something like that. So Daryl and Justina return to the lighthouse. Justina is all excited that she runs up, ready to embrace Roberto's arms. Ready to be embraced by Roberto's arms, but instead they get ambushed there. 2 guys ambush them, but then somehow Valentina saves them. It's like, what? So they were there, they ambushed the lighthouse. Valentina was hurt, and the 2 guys, they just left her? To the point Valentina can come back and stop them? Whatever. Of course our characters survive and kill off these 2. Valentina reveals that Solaz, they came for Roberto. So Daryl tells Justina to stay there, continue patching up Valentina, and he'll go to Solaz. Fede, hilariously, lets Carol and Antonio free. He's just like, you 2 can walk out of here. But of course it's not that simple, because of course he has a trap for them. Roberto is there. He's tied up to the 2 guys that accompanied Carol there. They're dead, you know, just waiting to reanimate. And then a bunch of walkers are being led to their location. So now the 3 of them are surrounded with no weapons. And worst of all, Roberto is chained up to 2 walkers. They try their best to hold off as long as they can. Someone actually throws Carol a knife to try to help her, but that didn't do too much since Fede shot it away. But, of course, Daryl shows up just in time, shoots some of the walkers to help them. And Justina shows up too. Justina walks right through the walkers because she knows that everyone will shoot the walkers to save her. Daryl shoots the walkers, Fede shoots the walkers. And Justina, now being back at Solaz, is proof that Fede lied. Everyone now knows that Fede lied. So now the people want Fede hanged, but Justina offers him mercy. It seems like everything is good and over now. On the beach, they're all together, waiting to spend the night there and then set sail the next day. Carol and Daryl, well, Carol actually tells Daryl, hot dogs? Last night in Spain. Why not, right? But we don't actually see them open the can of hot dogs. So, I don't know if they actually opened it or not. Because they were under the impression this would be their final night in Spain. So they probably would have opened it. And then we finally hear why Daryl has been flashing back to his childhood the entire season. Daryl and Carol talk. Daryl questions, why did he leave in the first place? He's been trying so hard to make it back home to America, to the Commonwealth. Why the hell did he leave it in the first place? Why didn't he go back when he could? Why did he have to fight the people in Maine and get thrown on that boat? Why didn't he leave France when he could have? So the reason that we've been seeing Daryl flash back to his childhood all the time is because Daryl has kind of had it drilled into him that he always needs to run away. He always needs to keep moving, keep running away. So, whenever Darrow finally felt safe, a safe space, a safe community, Darrow just instinctively has to leave. That wasn't necessarily the case early on, because if you think about it, the quarry camp, that didn't last long enough for Darrow to feel comfortable to leave. The prison, same thing. Only this time, Darrow had a purpose there. Darrow, not only being a part of the council, he also was one of the top people going out hunting for food. Alexandria, well, that wasn't safe to the point where he could leave. It dealt with the walkers flooding in, the saviors. Alexandria was anything but peaceful. The Commonwealth. Finally, the Commonwealth, he really felt free. Because remember, all the stuff we saw at the Commonwealth, that conflict happened for us to see. But then after all of that, a year time jump happened before Darrow left to find Rick. Darrow spent a year safe in the Commonwealth. So he just had to leave. And then, you know, the spin-off happened. That's where he ended up. So the reason we've been flashing back on Darrow's past this whole season is to tell us Darrow, whenever he feels safe, he has to go. He has to leave. And he's hoping that when he goes back to America, the Commonwealth, that won't be the case again. So back at Solaz, Fede is locked up. He pleads to his mom that, you know, once they set sail, the people, they're gonna kill him. But you can stop that, mama. You can let me go. You can save me. And Fede's mom actually lets him out. Darrow can't sleep, so he walks on the beach and just stands there. And then he actually gets he actually gets held up at gunpoint by Fede. Carol also woke up, so she stops Fede by tackling him. And in that, some bullets get fired, and the bullets hit the inside of the boat somehow. And somehow, it catches on fire. I'm not too sure how that happened. But the boat gets set on fire to the point they can't put it out. So the boat is now ruined. Fede flees into the night. And then we also see Codron walking by, and he sees the fire. Daryl and Carol, they're looking at the boat with sad expressions like, this was our ticket home. We were going to go home. But now we can't. The boat is destroyed. We're stuck here. And that's where Season 3 of Daryl Dixon ends. Is it a hot take if I say, I kind of feel like this has been the best season yet? I wasn't too sure about the switch from the France setting to Spain. But now that I've seen the season, I gotta say, I feel like this is the best season yet. The best pacing by far. The characters are actually, you know, I don't want to say enjoyable compared to seasons 1 and 2, because those characters were likable as well. I just feel like the pacing for this season was much better. The story was much better. Not to say I dislike seasons 1 or 2. I feel like season 3 has just been the best quality season yet. Don't get me wrong, season 1 is still up there. Season 2 was very rushed. So there you go. After all this time, I finally finished going over Daryl Dixon Season 3. Next time, we have 4, count them, 4 shows to go over. I missed a lot. We have 4 different shows to go over next time. We have the rest of Peacemaker Season 2. We have the rest of Gen V Season 2. And then, brand new shows, we have It, Welcome to Derry, and Has-Been Hotel Season 2. We have 4 shows to cover next time. But first, for the rest of today, let's try to go over some stuff that I missed. So there's been some news going on. First of all, Warner Brothers is up for sale. How crazy is that? Some of the top contenders are like Netflix, Paramount. There's rumors going around that Netflix is very interested, and if Netflix does buy Warner Brothers, they could revive the Snyderverse. Look, I enjoy what James Gunn is doing for the most part, but I gotta admit, I enjoy Snyder's work much more, you know? I prefer Man of Steel more than James Gunn's Superman. And then rewatching some clips. I rewatched some clips from Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. They are drastically better compared to what James Gunn has put out for Superman. I'm not saying I don't like Superman, it's just, damn, I really, really want to see Snyder's work get finished. And you know what? There is a chance, with the way things are playing out right now, there is a chance, because Zack Snyder has been posting a lot of pictures of Henry Cavill's Superman, Ben Affleck's Batman. He's been posting a lot of stuff recently. And with Warner Brothers on sale right now, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I want both to continue. I want James Gunn's vision to play out, and I want Zack Snyder to finish his work. Have both universes running parallel. That's it. It's very simple. Come on, the fans are smart. The fans aren't going to confuse it like, wait, this continuity, that continuity. Like, the fans are smart enough to figure this out. Come on. Don't forget, during the DCEU era, we also got solo films not connected, like Matt Reeves' The Batman, Joker. Come on, the fans are smart enough. Give us what we want. There were also rumors that James Gunn might be out as the head of DC if Warner Brothers gets bought out. I don't think that's going to be the case. I doubt it. Maybe they can command James Gunn and Peter Safran to change up some of what they're planning, but for the most part, I think James Gunn is staying where he is as the head of DC. I mean, for God's sake, the man just started. He has put out 3 projects. He has put out Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker Season 2 since he has been the head of DC. So, like, just give the man a chance, you know? I'm willing to see out his vision. I want to see what it's like. We also got news that the sequel to K-pop Demon Hunters is going to be in 2029. Wow, that sucks. Sadly, it makes sense. Didn't the first film take like 7 years to animate? And because Netflix and Sony didn't know just how big the movie would be, they didn't plan for it to be so popular to the point they had to make sequels. So when the movie came out, they weren't thinking about sequels. It wasn't until after the movie blew up that, like, okay, we need to franchise this. We need to Hollywood this up. Man, what else has happened? We got the trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to see Toy Chica in live action. I'm trying to think, what else has happened? Well, if anything, I'm just excited I finally get to watch some of these shows, because I've been holding off on them until I can discuss them here. I'm trying to think, what else has happened since the last time I did this? Nothing really comes to mind. Too much has happened to the point nothing has happened anymore. Like, it all caved in. Oh yeah, Markiplier got married. How crazy is that? Well, I can't think of anything else to talk about, so you know the drill. Silence. Watch a video on the side. Alright, give me a moment. I'll be right back. Let me turn off the lights. Can you believe after all this time, Giratina's still not shiny? So, I found out today that one of my friends recently got a girlfriend. And you know what? I could not be happier for him. It turns out that he is now with someone from back when we were in high school. Hey! Congrats to the two of them. I'm happy for them. I spoke to his now girlfriend like once or twice during high school. But hey, the two of them are now together after all these years since high school has finished. Congrats to them! Believe me, I could not be happier for them. Alright, this will be the last one. Oh, see you guys next time.